The 30s. Hey, we're all already up to the 30s. Now this next number it happens to be my just all-time favorite song. I think part of it's because it's challenging to play. Those of you who are musicians and who've had some music theory know what the circle of fifths is, and this song starts out and never gets back to the beginning for a long time. And so it's fun to play and challenging to play. And that and the fact that Phil does it in one key and I do it in another key. We get to do it in two different keys. So it was written by Jerome Kern for a play, music for, it wasn't called a musical, but it was music for a play that was called Very Warm for May. It's called All the Things You Are. You are the promised kiss of springtime that makes the lonely winter seem long. You are that breathless hush of evening that trembles on the brink of a lovely song. You are the angel blue that lies a star, the dearest things I know are what you are. Someday my happy arms will hold you, and someday I'll know that moment divine when all the things you are mine.
Well, that is one of my favorite songs too. The whole thing about a song like that, or really a lot of these, the keys that you do them in have a lot to do with the situation. A singer has to be able to sing within the parameters of their vocal range. On the other hand, when you're playing things instrumentally, there tend to be some standard keys, and then some instruments tend to, lean in the direction of certain keys more than others. Guitar is one that's notorious for,
picking keys that the piano player really has a hard time.
Yeah.
Like E and B and...
The instruments can both play in any key, but some just are easier than others. And anyway, I would like to do one of my very favorite of all time songs, Hoagie Carmichael's song, Georgia on My Mind. while ago we played a blues song by W.C. Handy. Here's one by Robert Johnson, Sweet Home Chicago. Now, Robert Johnson, who knows anything about Robert Johnson? He's a notorious fellow. Yes. What do we know about Robert Johnson? He died at a very young age. He allegedly sold his soul to the devil to become the greatest blues performer in the world. I don't know. The story goes that he was not very good. He would horn his way into jam sessions in honky tonks in the South, and they'd put up with him. He wasn't very good. He'd play a little bit and he'd leave. Then he disappeared for a number of months, and he came back and he was way better than anybody else. And so the thought was, well, there's only one possible reason this could happen. He must have sold his soul to the devil. And of course, he didn't do anything to make anybody believe otherwise. He did songs called like Hellhound on My Trail and Crossroads, where remember the song, the Charlie Daniels song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia? It's loosely based on that. Anyway, we're going to do Sweet Home Chicago. And that's your basic 12-bar blues. 1, 2, 3. notice I play with my fingers a lot, and I just broke a fingernail.
Oh, no.
We were born with 5 guitar picks on our right hand, those of us that are right-handed. For those of you who don't play guitar, see what you've got all these fingernails going to waste. That's something, a little problem, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, we talked a little bit about crossover tunes, and the 40s, there were so many numbers from the 40s that we could have spent all night just on the 40s, but we picked a couple of things that we like from the 40s. So this first one, I don't know, you probably know more about it than I do. I mean, it's a great tune. It's a Latin tune.
It was done, pardon me, it was done by a lot of people. I think Glenn Miller had a big hit on it in the 40s.
Did he?
I believe so. And then the Benchers had a surf version of it in the 60s. Then Linda Ronstadt recorded it when she did a whole Spanish album.
She did in Spanish, right.
And beyond that, I don't know. It's been done by a lot of people. But I think most people are aware of it because, at least ultimately, because of Glenn Miller's version of it in the 40s. And what does what does that word mean?
What does perfidion?
I've heard varying reports that...
the last time we did this, somebody said it was somebody's name.
It was the girl's name in the song. Well, I don't know. I always thought it was from the word perfidy, which is not a real pleasant thing. About betrayal, which is what I think the song is about. If we were, but you know, I don't know.
I'm going to play it anyway.
I prefer to play rather than analyze it, but I showed that song to a student of mine, an adult student, and then he bought a boat to live on, and he named his boat Perfidia.
That's not a bad omen.
I don't know. He only lasted a year on the boat, and he sold it. So. The next song we're going to do was the song that was brought out in a movie from the 40s. It was a ghost movie called The Uninvited. Have you seen that movie? It was a Ray Milland movie, and it was a ghost story. Now, ghost stories, you know, movies in those days were not as terrifying as they are now. Now they're trying to scare you to death, but then, well, I guess it was easier to scare people in those days. But Ray Milland in this movie, he buys this great big house in England, like on the cliffs of Dover or someplace. And what he does for a living is he critiques music. He writes for the local newspaper. And so, but he fancies himself a songwriter. Well, he didn't know it, but this big old house that he bought on the cliffs, well, it was a haunted house. And so he's up in his studio trying to write this song, which is the song I'm about to play. And while he's in the midst of writing it, he gets overcome. So he starts to write the song. To this point in the song, and then the ghostly presence makes itself known. The music takes a little bit of a change. And then it leaves. This became Stella by Starlight. What you're hearing is a moment in time. I mean, we don't do any of these the same way twice.
That worked out that time. Sometimes it's really interesting. Well, we're going to take a short break here. We're ready to get...